So a little bit later today, but still doing a live question and answer. I'm just here to answer your questions, and I would love to hear any updates about if you're doing the carnivore diet or things you've been experimenting with. Thank you for being here, and I'm just here to answer your questions. So while I wait for people to hop on and start asking questions, I will talk about my spring retreat. It's coming up in May 11th through 16th. Someone says, love the bun. Thank you. This is what happens after CrossFit. It just kind of ends up like this. So May 11th through 16th, North Myrtle Beach. It's like a 2-home property. So double pools, double kitchens. And we're going to have Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Lisa Wiedemann with us. These people are incredible. They're so much fun and they're so knowledgeable. We're going to have unlimited amounts of Billy Doe meats, North Star bison. I'm going to be making all of my carnivore treats and just special dishes that make carnivore more sustainable for me. I love to share that with other people. So it's going to be really, really fun. It's around the corner. I'm really excited. What's up? Hey, Adam. Hope you're well. Good morning from California. I bet your weather is way better than Illinois. Right now it's rainy and flooding a little bit, but at least it's not ice yet. So if you guys want to hop over to my YouTube channel, that's where I'll be taking questions and answering questions, even though I will be checking Instagram for questions as well. How is everyone doing? How was your weekend? Any questions you have, please feel free to ask. Good morning from California while I'm eating bacon. That sounds pretty awesome. Good morning. Forgot my drink. I'll be right back. So this is like week number 6 or 8 that I've been taking creatine after workouts almost every day. And the benefits I've noted, good morning, are honestly more mental benefits than physical. I have definitely been able to push myself, hit a lot of PRs lately, but I just feel like mentally my creativity is even more so, and I've really enjoyed taking creatine. Hello, good morning, Ashley. Congratulations again. I'm so excited for you. So excited for you. Someone asks, is mRNA injected livestock really a thing? And if so, is something to worry about? So I think you're talking about the COVID vaccine, I think, because I heard that as well. Good question. I think that it could be a thing and it could be a problem. We already know that the vaccine was a mistake. I'm just going to speak from my platform here. There could be people who disagree. It could have helped a lot of people. And I don't mean to disrespect you. And thank you, Ashley. So I think we're hearing that our livestock is going to start being injected with the vaccine, which is made from aborted fetuses. So that is concerning to me, but it's also not something that I'm freaking out about. I think this is a better time than ever. It just keeps being a better and better time to create a relationship with a local butcher or someone who you know is treating their livestock properly. Like Billy Doe Meats, they're not going to go there. I trust them. It's a small owned company with incredible high quality meat, non-aged. I've been, on the premise, and I know the people and I trust that source. And if you don't have that relationship, I would highly encourage that you go and seek it out in your area. That's how I found Billy Doe Meats with eatwild.com is a website. You can type in your zip code and it'll give you a list of local farmers and butchers. So that is what I would do. Good morning from Wyoming. Don't know what else to say other than you're awesome. So is your page and your story. Have a great week. Thank you. You have a great week as well. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on reintroducing foods. I'm thinking of trying to add berries to my diet. What are your thoughts on recommendations on how to reintroduce foods? How and what foods? Great question. So, I wouldn't start to reintroduce foods until you have been feeling pretty stable. I didn't even introduce butter or egg yolks until a year after meat and salt and water. Now, I had a variety of meat. It wasn't just beef, it was mostly lamb and goat from Billy Doe Meats. And after 3 days of the butter, I started getting arthritic symptoms. I was like, well, great. So I had to pull back on it. So, number one, I would make sure that you're feeling really stable with where you're at. If you've been consistently doing the same thing, you're not really struggling to be consistent, and you've noticed progress, which I know that you've been consistent, Ashley, then I think berries would be one of the best things to introduce. I would do strawberries because they're the lowest carb berry. It's approximately 0.9 grams of carbs per strawberry. Now, if you're getting like ginormous strawberries, then it's probably more like 2 carbs per strawberry, which is not that crazy. And they also don't contain many oxalates, and they have maybe a little bit of salicylate, which can be a little irritating, but I think it's more uncommon that people react poorly to strawberries. And then they also have water and fiber, so it's going to help to balance your blood sugar. So I would say make sure that you eat a good meal with protein and fat, and then test out a small serving of whatever you want to introduce. And when I say a small serving, I would say no more than a quarter cup of whatever berry you choose. I would say no more than 8 to 10 strawberries, and then wait 3 days. And if you feel good, then reintroduce it again and start closing the gap between trying that food. So maybe do it every other day. And then also be thinking about your blood sugar. I don't know how stable it is. I know that I believe yours is pretty darn stable. I believe that you're insulin sensitive, and especially if you're going for a walk or you're lifting any weights, that would be a good time to try something like a little bit of carbohydrate after that lift or after that exercise, because your muscles, they literally mop up glucose. They mop up glycogen. And for someone who's sedentary, introducing carbohydrates can be a little bit more tricky because you're just going to be introducing that glucose into your bloodstream. So after a workout would be a good idea, and just listen to your body. And not just listen to your body, but listen to your mind. Do you start thinking about those berries every day? Is that what you're looking forward to now? That could be a problem. And then just start closing the gap. And then I would wait. I know this sounds like a lot, but I would wait 3 weeks before trying anything else new, because whatever you've eaten can stay within your body or affect your body for up to 30 days after the fact, which is a long time. I recommend 3 weeks, but it doesn't always go that way. I would just say listen to your body, and whatever you're doing, think about how it's going to impact you. Imagine yourself. Are you a person who can eat strawberries regularly and not crave them all the time? I believe that you are a person who can balance things like that. And just take your time, and just remember that if you have a bad reaction, you want to be sure that you can pinpoint what's going on. Otherwise, you have to wipe everything out and then start over. And I think a lot of us do that. I've done it. So that's how I would do it. And I think berries are one of the best things to reintroduce. I love eating them with Greek yogurt. You could do some of the Greek yogurt, prime protein. That's tons of protein to balance your blood sugar and help stabilize your blood sugar with that small amount of carbs. And so I've mentioned before on these videos that I've been introducing carbs on my heavy lift days, and berries are my primary source of carbohydrates. I'm not like eating a bunch of Twinkies or like anything like that. It's whole food carbohydrates just to offset that cortisol response and help repair my muscles quickly when I do a very heavy lift. I hope that answers the question. Oh, look at all these people joining. Thank you. I have hypothyroidism and Graves' disease. I'm carnivore and feeling amazing. On the other hand, I am having trouble losing weight. Got any ideas on what I can do to help this? The hypothyroidism is a problem, and the Graves' disease. And so I would definitely focus on getting past those and not just putting them into remission, but reversing them. I had over 10 autoimmune diseases, And all of these, people think like you can just go into remission and they're just there in the background, not active, but like they're literally gone with labs to confirm. So focus on healing your gut, focus on supporting your hormones before trying to lose weight. Focus on your health. And to restore your thyroid, you have to eat enough protein and you have to eat enough food in general. If you're doing the really high fat carnivore way of eating, please don't go low protein. You can do high fat with moderate protein because your thyroid needs the protein. And you also need the fat. I'm not saying cut the fat out and just go high protein. I'm just saying don't cut out the protein. I guarantee your thyroid is needing protein. And then you might consider taking iodine. You might consider, are you getting all of the nutrients that your thyroid needs? Selenium, zinc, and iodine are very important. Maybe eat some seafood once or twice a week. Get some oysters or mussels or something like that. Or you could take iodine. And you could also do kelp. Kelp is a great source of iodine. It's not a plant. It's a separate species. And so there are lots of options, but I would definitely consider those because if you have deficiencies, your thyroid will suffer. But just focus on health and the weight will follow. If you try to force weight loss when you have active hypothyroidism, you're going to have to white knuckle through it. You're going to have to eat lower calories and you're going to end up in a deficit that you don't want to stay in, and it will not be sustainable. So put in the work to get your health back, even if that means you gain some weight initially. I gained all the way up to 155. I mean, I was pushing it. And that's what my body needed to heal. And then it just regulated itself. It came right back down to like 125, and that's where it sits comfortably, usually. So yeah, you'd be so proud. I've been doing 3 days of lifting a week. Thanks for the advice. I'll try strawberries. That is amazing. I would love to hear, how the lifting has benefited you, your mood, how you're feeling. I know for me, I lift for my mood. It's my therapy. It feels so good. It's usually the hardest thing I do all day, so the rest of the day is like relaxing. But it's also a very good outlet. I always tell my CrossFit coach, like if I come twice in one day, probably means Tyler and I are having a fight because it's a great outlet. But I'm super proud of you, and that's really exciting. So strawberries would be great because, again, carbs can be a tool if you're lifting heavy. That raises your cortisol. It can raise your cortisol. And there are certain exercises that require more fat burning and some that require more glucose. So heavy lift depletes glycogen, which is glucose. And so to replenish that glycogen quickly, you can have a little bit of carbs with protein, nothing crazy. Some berries would be perfect. So that's really exciting. Aw, thank you. Ashley says, everyone should work with Rebecca 1-1, the best investment I ever made for my health. Thank you. Honestly, I have so many clients, and Ashley is one of them, who I feel so blessed and honored to be able to get to know her. And, everyone is fighting their own battle, and she's just incredible. I don't want to put all your stuff out there, but thank you. And the pleasure is mine. Someone says, long-term keto leads to underactive thyroid function. Thank you. ? Only if you're doing low protein. That's the problem. People do long-term low protein keto and it's not sustainable. That's it. You need to raise the protein. Oh, and I'll also say, when your thyroid hormone goes down, it's not always a bad thing. Your thyroid actually becomes more efficient when you switch to fat burning. Same with vitamin C. Your need for thyroid hormone and your need for vitamin C goes down because they become more efficient. So for vitamin C competes for the same pathway as glucose in your body. So when you stop consuming glucose, it opens up that pathway for all the vitamin C. There's no competition. So you don't need as much vitamin C in your diet. With your thyroid, your actual thyroid becomes more efficient and it's not going to produce as much hormone. And this happens often on the ketogenic diet, and it's not always a bad thing, but I will also say it's not always an okay thing. You need to listen to how you're feeling. My thyroid looks really good on paper, and I think that's ideal for most people, and I do think that a lot of people are under eating protein, and we run into issues with that long term. You are welcome. You're so welcome. I'm experiencing horrific constipation on carnivore and even worse issues when incorporating more fat. Any suggestion? So, first suggestion is pull out anything that you're leaving in your diet. Like, sometimes when people switch to carnivore, they go and have a biscuit on the weekend, and that's going to mess up your digestion. If you're full carnivore, then I would say look at your electrolytes. You could try drinking some water with a bunch of salt in it. You want it to taste like the ocean. Take a couple sips, not full drink, not full gulps. Don't drink the whole thing, just a couple sips. I'm saying like 4 sips of this solution that tastes like the ocean, and that should help to pull water into your colon and produce a bowel movement. But for long term, I would take a good look at your electrolytes. A lot of people underdo electrolytes. I take 10 grams of sodium every day. So if you have a supplement, that would be like 10 scoops of Redmond Relight, quite literally, every day for me to feel optimal, have optimal bowel movements, great energy. But I also sweat. I also go to CrossFit. So everyone's a little bit different, but the general recommendations for a low carb diet are between 2 and 5 grams of sodium per day. So I think that's around 2 or 3 teaspoons. So just, you want to be sure you're getting enough electrolytes, and then also give it time. I don't know how long you've been carnivore, but when you take fiber out of your diet, it's asking your colon to work in a different way. Your colon is a muscle, and it has to learn how to work differently. Some people get diarrhea. It just kind of like opens the floodgates. And some people, it kind of locks up. But there is definitely a transition phase with carnivore when you are removing all the fiber. Excuse me. All right. Any more questions? I'm only going until 11 today because I want to eat with my husband. But I can take any more questions that anyone has. I'm excited about this experimenting that I've been doing with some carbs, because everyone's different. Some people probably should never go back to carbs, but it's something that I wasn't sure I would ever be able to do, and I'm feeling really good with it. I'm finding balance, and I can tell when my body wants some, and I can tell when my body just doesn't need them, and my mind isn't getting in the way like it used to. I used to eat a little bit of carbohydrate and not be able to stop at all, and it's just not like that anymore, so that's really exciting for me. Someone asked, minimum salt intake should be 5 grams per day on keto or carnivore diet. I personally agree with that. Thanks for sharing about how you feed Moose. You're welcome. You know, in that video, I said he was a 15-month-old puppy. He's 15 weeks. It's always something. It's always something. How often do you go live? I try to do this every Monday at 10:15 Central Standard Time. I'm live on YouTube, and then I also turn on the Instagram live. Tomorrow I'll be going live with Naoic Balm at 10:15, and then on Saturday I'm going live with Helen, who's one of my clients and good friends, and she's just super inspiring, so she's going to be sharing her story. What does floating stool mean? It usually means that you're not digesting your fat properly. It could be that you have bile issues. Your liver is what produces bile, so if you're not producing enough bile to break down fat, that's a liver issue, and on this way of eating, your internal organs should be repaired. Your liver health should get better and better. But floating stool usually means that you're not breaking down your fat intake. You could just be consuming too much rendered fat. That certainly will happen with me if I have, if I have bone broth with all the liquid oil floating around in it. I'm going to be running to the bathroom, and I'll have some really loose stools sometimes floating. Kindly post these videos on your YouTube. I do. I'm on YouTube live right now, and I post them every week. You are very welcome. All right, so I have 2 more minutes. Just waiting for any more questions. I would love to answer them. If you guys struggle with floating stools or struggling to get enough fat in your diet, I would really check out Billy Doe Meats. They have fatty cuts of lamb, and it doesn't taste too gamey. Like the lamb that I get at the grocery store, I can't even eat. It's too gamey. But Billy Doe Meats is delicious, and there's a lot of fat that's connected to the meat, so it's not like melted liquid fat, and that can be a lot easier on your digestion. Yes, Helen has an incredible story. I'm excited. Excuse me. I have a stovetop pressure cooker, and my lamb shank bones don't get soft enough to eat the way you do. I'm not sure if I don't cook them long enough or if I need a steamer basket. You're probably not cooking them long enough. Anything that's similar to a crock pot, you're going to have to cook them for a minimum of 8 hours, probably closer to 12. Unfortunately, I think the pressure cooker, if you don't have one, then I think it's worth it to invest in one. Like literally set aside money to get a pressure cooker because it saves you so much time. I made an incredible roast this morning. Like it was done by the time I got back from CrossFit, whereas with a crock pot, I would have had to wait a whole day, like until tomorrow. And then you can get those soft bones and a really good broth, low histamine. Thoughts on organic chicken? Is it okay to eat a lot of? I personally don't really like chicken or pork because the lipid profile, which is the fat, is a lot of polyunsaturated fat, which is not readily used by the body. Saturated fat from lamb, goat, veal, bison, beef is easily oxidized and used for fuel, whereas polyunsaturated fat is recycled into the lymphatic system and deposited into our fat cells for storage. So when I'm eating low carb, I obviously need fat for my fuel, and so I'm not really going for chicken because it doesn't come with the fat. Now, I think a good quality organic chicken is delicious if you make it the right way, but Tyler and I don't eat it a lot. I would love, I like to make like chicken enchiladas or chicken parmesan. It's a really nice treat, but we only make that like 4 times a year. So I think that the ruminant animals are really the best bang for your buck. If it's what you enjoy, then I think it's good for you to include. It's way better than eating a ton of carbs. It's still protein. But I do think that red meat is optimal. And if you compare the amino acid profiles, red meat also seems optimal to me. But I'm really not trying to diss or hate on chicken. If it helps you to do this way of eating more sustainably and long term, then go for it. Just keep in mind that saturated fat is what your body is really, really wanting. And I think you'll feel better eating more saturated fat versus polyunsaturated fat coming from chicken or pork. I'll take one more question about the pressure cooker. How much water do I add? How long do you cook them in the pressure cooker? So for any pressure cooker, I only fill up the water until it's halfway covering the meat, because a pressure cooker works by steaming the food, not a crock pot where you're submerging it. I never submerge the meat in the pressure cooker. I just fill it up until it's halfway covering the meat. And I have a YouTube video on cooking methods. I made it a long time ago. It's pretty far back there, but it's a really good one. And it just talks about, how to cook different cuts. So that's what I would do. And if you want to eat the bones, you'll need to pressure cook them for 3 to 4 hours on high. And then someone says sardines much. I don't eat sardines much. I prefer anchovies, and I eat them maybe like once a month. I don't love the flavor, but I do crave the nutrients. And same with salmon. I have salmon maybe once every 2 months, and then I'm like out on it. So I really just listen to my body, but I eat a lot of veal, goat, lamb. I love collagen. If you look at my story on Instagram, I showed this veal breast that I made in my pressure cooker, and it's just oozing with collagen. And that's what my body craves. So I will leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to go eat with my husband, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Monday. Bye.